Hello, Miss Adams's Algebra 1 class. I'd like you to pull out your Cornell notes that you took in class today. The next section that we're doing is 2.1.4, what information determines a line. And in your notes, I showed you three ways that you can write the equation of the line from the information that you're given. And if you remember, what do you need to write the equation of a line? You need the slope and the y-intercept. We're going to write equations in the form y equals mx plus b. So, example 1. If I was given the table, we're going to write the equation from a table. So if I was given the table, okay, so here's my table. Now, notice that we don't have x equals 0. So we don't have the starting value or the y-intercept showing in the table. We're going to have to figure out the slope and the y-intercept. First, you find the slope. And the best way to do that is to take the second number, look in your y row, take the second number, and subtract the first number. 17 minus 13 is 4. Now we're going to check to see if we get it again. So I'm going to take the third number and subtract the second number. 21 minus 17 is 4. So the slope is 4. So the slope is 4. Or we could say m equals 4. We know m. Now we need to find b. Because remember, to write the equation, we need to know m and we need to know b. Okay? Now, to do this, we need to find the y-intercept. So, if you remember, when we filled out a table, we had to add the slope to keep filling up the table. So since I need to go backwards to find 0, I'm going to subtract. So to find the y-intercept, I'm going to do 13 minus 4, which is 9. That's for when x equals 1. Now we need to do it one more time because we need x to equal 0. So now I'm going to do 9 minus 4. And 9 minus 4 equals 5. That's for when x equals 0. And if you remember from the table, 0 is our starting value or the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, or b, equals 5. Now we have the slope and we have the y-intercept. We can write the equation. So my equation is y equals 4x plus 5. Now next, does everyone have that? Next, I'm going to do example 2. Example 2 is when you have the slope, that's m, and 1 point. So I'm going to use m equals 5 and the point 2, 14. Now, we need to use the form of the equation y equals mx plus b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 5 for m in the equation, 2 for x in the equation, and 14 for y. So I'm going to take the equation, I'm going to plug those numbers in. 14 for y equals 5 for m. And since this is m times x, I'll write it like this. 2 for x. We don't know b, so we just write the b. That's what we need to find out. We have to find b. We know the slope. We need to find b so we can write the equation. So now I'm going to solve it for b. So I get 14 equals 5 times 2 is 10 plus b. Use the additive inverse. I know you know how to do it because this is solving a one-step equation. So the additive inverse, the opposite of 10, positive 10 is negative 10. And remember, we have to do it on both sides of the equal sign. I'm going to bring down my b. 10 minus 10 is 0, so they cancel. 14 minus 10 is 4, so the y-intercept, or b, is 4. Now I can write my equation. I know my slope, and I know the y-intercept. So the equation is y equals 5x plus 4. Do we have it? Remember, you can pause it and write down these examples for extra examples if you want. You can always rewind and pause. Now for the last example, example 3. Now this is from 2 points. We can write an equation of a line even if we don't know the slope or the y-intercept if we have 2 points for that line. So my 2 points are 3:11 and 5:15. Now, you have in your notes, remember, you have to use the formula. So you're going to use this formula. y2 minus y1 equals x2 minus x1. And now remember, all these 2's and 1's are just position. This is x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. Now we're going to plug it into the equation. I forgot my m here. So m, which is the slope, equals the formula. So let's plug stuff in. So it says y2, that's my y2, so I'm going to write 15 minus, always minus. This is my y1, so I'm going to plug in my y1. This is my x2, so I'm going to plug in 5 for x2, always minus. This is my x1, so I'm going to plug in 3 for x1 and do the math. 15 minus 11 is 4. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So m equals 2. My slope is 2. So now I have the slope, and I have 2 points. So I can pick either point and do like we did in example 2. I'll have the slope and 1 point. I always try to pick the lower numbers because it makes the math a little easier. So I'm going to use the slope and the point 3:11. So remember, we're going to do the same thing we did in example 2. I'm going to plug in 2 for m, 3 for x, and 11 for y. So using the form of the equation, I'm going to plug in, remember we're using y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to plug in 11 for y. I'm going to plug in 2 for m. And I'm going to plug in 3 for x. And since this is m times x, I'm going to write it like this. We don't know what b is, so I'm just going to write b. Now I'm going to do the math. 11 equals 2 times 3 is 6 plus b. And again, I'm going to use the additive inverse. And so 6 is positive. The additive inverse is the opposite, so I'm going to subtract 6. Now when I do, I'll bring the b down. 6 minus 6 is 0, so they cancel out. 11 minus 6 is 5, so the y-intercept, or b, is 5. Now I know my slope, and I know the y-intercept. I can write the equation. So the equation is y equals 2x plus 5. There you go. It's not that hard. It looks kind of complicated, but once you get used to the steps, especially when we use the formula, it'll be easier for you and you'll feel more comfortable with it. Now for the entrance ticket. I need to see this on Monday. So the entrance ticket is write an equation for m equals 4 and the point 319. Show your work. Have a nice weekend. See you on Monday.